Hi guys, GetYou64 here, and today we will be talking about Christmas movies. What gave it away? It's that time of year that we pop in our traditional holiday flicks, those movies we make time to watch as a matter of principle. Some of which we know by heart and can recite at the drop of a hat. And in this video, I will be sharing my top 10 Christmas movies, a list that is completely subjective. These aren't based on quality, but rather tradition to some extent. Everyone has their own favorite Christmas movies, and everyone will have their own lists, which I'd love to see some of those below in the comments if you have the time. But here's my list. I hope you guys are ready for the truth.
Oh, geek.
True. 64.
Geek. Truth.
Geek.
True.
64. Oh, shit.
All right, before we jump into it, I feel the need to address a topic of major contention when it comes to holiday movies, and that is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Well, I think it depends on you. Is it a movie you watch around Christmas time? If so, it is a Christmas movie. For me, I watch Die Hard randomly throughout the year, so for me it's just a movie that takes place around Christmas because I don't associate it as much with Christmas. Same for Gremlins and Batman Returns, both take place at Christmas time. These are all good movies, but they aren't my traditional Christmas lineup. However, if you view them as Christmas movies, I understand why. There's a completely valid argument for that. Either way, it just comes down to perspective. But for me, in my list, I'll not be including these films. Just wanted to get that out of the way. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and kick things off with number 10, Prancer. Probably the least known Christmas movie on my list. Prancer is a story about a little girl who comes across an injured reindeer on the forest, and she takes it in and hides it away in the hopes of nursing it back to health in time to join Santa on Christmas Eve. Seems like a simple by the numbers story, but what I like so much about this movie is that it is so different than other Christmas movies. It has Sam Elliott as a struggling single father trying to keep his farm running while raising a son and daughter. And the daughter is the main character here, and she's so off the wall in her own world that it's just hilarious at times, unintentionally, I think.
Dr. Benton! Can't wait, emergency! I tell you, he's one of Santa's!
She isn't playing with a full deck.
The setting for this movie is different. It is in the small town in the 80s, and the movie for the most part never really says if the reindeer is in fact Prancer. All these things come together to ground the movie and just give it a really unique feel. I grew up watching this, but what keeps me coming back to it around Christmas is just how different it is compared to everything else. Number 9, Nightmare Before Christmas. So, you may be asking, what's this?
What is this?
What's with the number 9 spot? This is one of the best Christmas movies, and to that I say it's on my list, isn't it? This is a top 10 list. It's on my list. It's obviously good. My thing is that I've always associated this movie more with Halloween. I get that it's about both holidays, and the main story is really about Christmas, but I'll always associate this movie more with Halloween for some reason. That's just the way it is. However, I do feel compelled to put it on my list because I'd be lying if I said I'd never watched this on my Christmas lineup. Many get confused with this movie thinking that Tim Burton directed this, and he did produce it, as well as come up with the story and characters, but the director was actually Henry Selick, who also directed James and the Giant Peach. But Burton's touch in this film is just undeniable. It's undeniable. With its off-kilter style and humor, the idea of this movie is basically not being content with where you are in life. You're just being bored and he just wanting to make a change. And that's what Jack's character, his whole arc in this whole movie, he just wants to do that. And in the end, he realized his own importance, where he is and who he is. There's a reason this movie is so popular and beloved and timeless. Nightmare Before Christmas is a holiday masterpiece. Up to you to determine which holiday it is. Number 8, Christmas Vacation. I think National Lampoon's Vacation, which is the first movie in the Vacation series, is a great movie. And while I don't think Christmas Vacation is quite as good as, the National Lampoon's Vacation, I still think it's a really good Christmas movie. Just like in the other vacation movies, Clark Griswold does everything in his power to make the perfect family vacation. He just wants the best Christmas ever. And just like in all the other movies, it all falls apart. But there is something intangible about why Christmas Vacation is a mainstay in most people's Christmas lineup. Most people can identify with crazy family members. The fact that things blow up in Clark's face is something any movie can do. It's not all that original. It's Clark's constant need to create and mold perfect family moments that make this movie work. It gives it a small amount of heart that keeps the movie on the tracks. I'm going to let Clark take us out with how he really feels.
Hallelujah! Holy Where's the Tylenol?
Number 7, The Santa Claus. To me, this is the definitive live-action Santa Claus movie. Tim Allen was a perfect choice for this role. He pulls off both the jaded businessman and Santa Claus. That transition is perfect. In 1994, Tim Allen had the #1 show on TV with Home Improvement and the #1 film at the box office for several weeks over the holiday season with this movie, The Santa Claus. So the 90s were a great decade for Tim Allen. Now, I love the journey of this movie. This guy has zero interest in becoming Santa and fights it throughout the entire film. He only really gives in at all just to connect with his son. This movie also had a very cool looking North Pole that I remember was a lot different than what you'd previously seen. There's like rooms for invention and creativity. There's like a ballroom. There's literally balls bouncing around. There were 2 sequels to this. Santa Claus 2, it was all right. Santa Claus 3, I could have gone without seeing that one. But either way, neither one of the sequels were as good as the original by far. And there has never been a better advertisement for Denny's.
Everybody likes Denny's. It's an American institution.
Number 6, A Christmas Story. Otherwise known as that one movie that plays for 24 hours on Christmas Day. Yes, the movie is overplayed. Yes, it has been overly commercialized in recent years, but to me, it's still that little movie about a kid who wants a BB gun for Christmas. As I've said many times before, I am a sucker for period movies. There's never been an actual date given for when this takes place, but it's generally considered to be in the late 30s, early 40s. Either way, I just love the setting of this movie. The small stories within this larger narrative of him wanting the BB gun are what give this film so much character. The old man fighting with the furnace, getting his major award, the leg lamp, the kids dealing with bullies and double dog dares and end up with your tongue frozen to a pole. The kid trying to help his dad change a tire and it just blows up in his face. For the most part, these are just timeless stories that we can connect with. There's a reason it has been shown on TV every Christmas for 24 hours since 1997. It is rewatchable, and for a lot of people, it is a mainstay on their Christmas movie block every year, and as you can see, it's on mine as well. Number 5, Jingle All The Way. I want the Turbo Man action figure with the arms and legs that move, and the boomerang shooter, and the rock and roll and jetpack, and the realistic voice activator that says 5 different phrases, including, "It's turbo time." Accessories sold separately, batteries not included.
Whoever doesn't can be a real loser.
Jingle All The Way has become such a cult movie over the years, and what's not to like? You got Arnold Schwarzenegger beating up Santa Clauses, you got Sinbad going ballistic, but I grew up watching this movie. It was one of the few VHSs that we owned, and it got watched a lot, year-round even. The story of a dad trying to get his kid the hot Christmas toy works perfectly in the 1990s. Before Amazon, parents had to go out into the unwashed masses to try and find that elusive toy. Be it Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, Furbies, whatever it was. The lengths Arnold goes to get this hunk of plastic are incredible. And all the while, his wife and kid are just making him feel like crap despite being his #1 customer. It's an over-the-top story that is funny no matter how many times I watch it. I love Jingle All The Way. It's great. Number 4, Elf. Many people forget this movie was in fact directed by Jon Favreau. Yes, the same guy behind The Jungle Book, The Mandalorian, and Iron Man.
Santa! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him.
Oh man, Buddy the Elf was played to utter perfection by Will Ferrell. It would not be an exaggeration to say that this may be his best role ever. It is because of his over-the-top acting this movie works so well, and there are so many great memorable lines like, "You smell like beef and cheese, you don't smell like Santa." Heck, I can use 2 great lines right now to get in a quick dig at the final season of Game of Thrones for being completely terrible.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Look, I'm not kidding.
You're a fake.
I'm a fake?
Yes.
How'd you like to be dead?
As you can tell, I still haven't let the final season of Game of Thrones go. It's terrible. So thank you, Elf, for helping me with that. Elf just provides so many great jokes. I use them throughout the year. This is just honestly the funniest Christmas movie that I watch every year. I had a hard time putting this at number before because it's just so good. It is one of my favorites. There are just a couple more movies that ever so slightly outpaced it. As for the rest of the movies on this list, it is one that I watch every year without fail. So most of these I watch every year. That goes without saying. Number 3. Muppets Christmas Carol. Obviously, one of the many versions of A Christmas Carol was going to make it onto my list. Fun fact, there are more than 24 Christmas Carol film adaptations, which is crazy. Now, I particularly love the 1951 Alistair Sims version, the 1984 George C. Scott version, and the 1999 Patrick Stewart version. So take your pick of whichever ones are your favorite. Those are some honorable mentions as far as Christmas carols go. So the Muppets may be an odd pick for some for the best Christmas Carol, but I've always loved this version the best. It has humor. I love Gonzo and Rizzo as the narrators, not only providing all the classic Christmas Carol lines, but also providing levity and humor throughout. They are straight fire.
Hey, like the lamb, not the rat, like the lamb, not the rat.
My apologies.
Put me out, 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 Whistle! What?
I also love the songs here. There goes Mr. Humbug, there goes Mr. Grimm. Great stuff. One More Sleep Till Christmas, It Feels Like Christmas, and double your Marleys with We Are Marley and Marley. Great memorable songs. And I've just always loved the Muppets. This may actually be my favorite Muppet movie, which is saying a lot. Now, I did meet Steve Whitmire, who has been the voice and puppeteer for Kermit since Jim Henson's passing in 1990. Steve was just a really awesome dude. I got to talk to him for a good 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes at least. He was just a cool dude. I mentioned that this was in fact my number 1 Muppets movie and just thanked him for being a part of it. I grew up on this version of A Christmas Carol, and every time I watch it, I'm transported back in time to the 90s. And that's why I love movies so much. They have the power to transport us back in time. It's awesome.
For reservations, call toll-free 1-800-759-3000.
Plaza Hotel Reservations may I help you?
Howdy, Jim. This is Peter McAllister, the father.
Yes, sir.
I'd like a hotel room, please,
Yes.
with an extra large bed, a TV, and one of those little refrigerators you have to open with a key.
Yes, sir. You'll need a major credit card upon check-in.
Credit card, you got it.
Thank you. Enjoy your stay.
Number 2, Home Alone 1 and 2. This is my list, and I'm including both Home Alone 1 and 2 in the number 2 spot because they are both solid movies. With 2 taking what 1 did and simply making it bigger, while not necessarily better, not including 2 on this list would be a disservice. So both are getting this spot. Home Alone was a perfect storm with John Hughes' script, the best kid actor in the business with Macaulay Culkin, slapstick humor, a kid wish fulfillment, being on your own, and a heart that routed it in the Christmas season. Now, adjusting for inflation, Home Alone is number 43 in all-time domestic box office gross, which is crazy. It even held the title of highest grossing comedy for more than a decade. Home Alone 2 was the first movie that I ever remember seeing in theaters. First movie I remember seeing in theaters. The idea of a kid being on his own in a city was just fascinating. There was also great villains, including Marv and Harry. You also had Tim Curry and Rob Schneider in the second movie. What kind of idiots do you have working here?
The finest in New York.
The traps as a kid were also a big highlight of both of these movies, and as an adult, I still think they are just great. Macaulay Culkin's like Rube Goldberg style traps are just awesome, and it's the slightly animated pain that keeps it from turning into a prologue for a Saw movie. The creators studied Looney Tunes, and it paid off, because to this day, if you mention Home Alone, the first thing that people probably think of is the traps. Home Alone 1 and 2 are awesome, but before I get to my number one spot, there are a couple quick honorable mentions. The Grinch. Yes, now I do prefer the original animated short, but it's not a movie, so it's not included on this list. But Jim Carrey's Grinch is really good. I do enjoy it. It just didn't make the list. Also, Miracle on 34th Street. The original or the remake, either one. I prefer the remake just because I like John Hammond as Santa Claus. He did a great job. I love that. Also, Polar Express. Yeah, the motion capture is kind of dated, and at the time there's a couple creepy moments in it, but it's an honorable adaptation to the actual book, which I loved the book when I was a kid, and so the movie's really good. Also, Fred Claus, which is a movie I don't think too many people remember. No, it wasn't the greatest thing ever, but you had Vince Vaughn as playing the brother of Santa Claus. Santa Claus was played by Paul Giamatti. I love Paul Giamatti as Santa Claus. He did a great job. The movie's kind of forgettable, but I thought it was definitely worth mentioning. Fred Claus is worth a watch if you've never seen it. And there's more Christmas movies as well. Those are just honorable mentions I wanted to mention here. Number one, It's a Wonderful Life. Was there any doubt that this would be my number one? It hadn't showed up on the list up till now, so you probably called this was going to be my number one. When I think of Christmas time, this is the first movie that I think about. And no matter how many times I watch it, it never gets old. It even gets better with age. The older I get, the more I connect with this story. Jimmy Stewart is amazing in the role of George Bailey. And something I didn't know till just a few years ago was actually that while he was filming this movie, he was dealing with PTSD following World War II. So the scenes where he's falling apart at the end are put into a completely different context as a result within the movie when you're watching it. And his performance is honestly one of my favorite performances in any movie that I've ever seen. We follow this guy through his life, seeing the impact he has on people while he's just trying to do the right thing. He has dreams that get put on hold because he cares about his family, friends, and his hometown. His life seems to just pass him by, and while he's waiting to finally leave his small town and explore the world, live out his dreams, it's only through an angel that he sees the real impact he has on the world around him. And it would be a real gift to see how much impact you've had on those around you. It would, if you stop and think about it for a second, wow. I mean, he'll put your life into perspective. I love this movie. It is not only my favorite Christmas movie, it is on my top films of all time. Easy. I still run into people who have never seen It's a Wonderful Life, which blows my mind. So if you have not seen this movie, please do yourself a favor and check it out this holiday season. I promise you that you will not be disappointed. And make sure you watch it in the original black and white. I've seen the color remaster several times as well, but somehow it takes away some of the charm of the movie, so definitely go watch it in black and white if you can. And with that, my list is complete. As I mentioned before, please let me know your list below. These lists are just entirely subjective, and it's always fun to see what everyone else's mainstays are for Christmas. So please share them in the comments below if you can take the time to do that. I have more videos in the works to cap off this year. I just want to thank my subscribers. You guys continue to be amazing. Thank you for making this a great year. I want to thank everyone for checking out this video. And if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, share, check out my other videos. Or don't. I'm not a beggar. I'm Geek264, and I'll always tell you the truth.